Hello, this is Ben Muldrow of Arnett Muldrow and Associates, and I'm proud to share with you my recommendations for branding and marketing for Odessa, Missouri. We visited the community. We spent about 12 hours there, did a training on a Wednesday evening, and then at 8 a.m. the following morning did this branding presentation. So everything that you are seeing truly is just a gut reaction and just a way to think about how you can tell the story and how you can share more about Odessa, seeing some of the things that already existed and how you might be able to expand on those. As you come into the community, one of the first things you're greeted with is this gateway sign. Very, very typical entryway. But as you travel through the community, you see some other really great imagery. The Odessa Ice Cream Factory with this fantastic polar bear sign painted directly on the building. As we look through the community, there are many, many different logos, but very few that are coordinated with one another. All good, but not necessarily connected. And one of the biggest things that we want to do is make sure that our communities are telling a cohesive story. So being able to try to connect the dots between these different organizations and tell a single story of Odessa, or at the very least, as we sing, let's sing from the same stage. Let's be a chorus instead of a whole bunch of soloists. So with that, we always look at other different entities. I think one of the things that was interesting about Odessa, of course, we always look at the high school, red and black, your colors, as you would imagine. Those colors are very, very important for you all. A lot of different bulldogs being used. You have managed to tap into several different generations of University of Georgia Bulldogs. I was able, as you can see, to find about 8 or 9 different variations. You also both used the Georgia Bulldog and inspiration from the Miami logo. So kind of an interesting dynamic there. Again, all of those things are good, but I think that they point to this idea that, especially the relationship between the students and their schools, they really like imagery that is contemporary and kind of mirrors that of professional and collegiate teams. So definitely on the right track, and we'll just make some recommendations that you might consider moving forward, especially from a merchandising angle with the school. So as we talk about the toolkit really is made up of 4 primary components. We start by looking at the colors. Then from there, after recommending a color palette, we will look at typefaces and make recommendations on different typefaces that you might use. From there, we look at an approach to graphics and then wrap it up with the idea of the message. So what we did was we looked at all the different logos that the community was using, and we landed on a 5-color palette that brought in the red from the school, brought in some of the greens from the city logos and things like that, and just tried to create this nice, vibrant color palette that you could work off of. Now, what this actually shows is it shows how these different colors are currently in play and can be used to connect the dots. So with this 6-color overall palette, your city colors could kind of focus in on the greens and yellows, chamber colors and the high school colors and the red and green, Main Street colors and the 4 different colors. So you can kind of see those different dynamics there. From the typeface, what we're actually recommending is 3 different typefaces. The primary is a diamond serif. It's a really clean but bold serif typeface. This is the thing that we really look at and make sure that your name, Odessa, looks good in this typeface. The secondary is a sans serif typeface that just goes along and kind of complements but is content neutral. And then the accent typeface is more of a handwritten script typeface. We wanted to make sure that the typeface selection looked good in your name, so both lowercase, well, what we call title style, capital O and the rest lowercase, and also all caps in Odessa. So you can start to see for this word type, this is how your name appears in those typefaces. Our inspiration really came from some of those very simple elements that we saw, that round logo from Odessa ice cream, the fact that your name starts with O. Just keep it simple, clean, round, colorful while still being traditional. And I think one of the biggest things that we really wanted to do was we wanted to send across this very simple message that, a lot of times people like to talk about downtown Odessa, but what you really need to talk about is historic Odessa. Historic Odessa creates a nice contrast to an outlet mall. It creates this idea that there's a certain amount of character and you might have to look to find it. So that's something very important for you to think about as you go through and create your messaging strategy. Think about those differences between Odessa as a whole, historic Odessa, and downtown Odessa. And then also think about the differences between the organization brands and the destination brands. Make sure that you as a community have an overall community brand that can connect the dots and really tell this story. It doesn't have to try to tell the whole story. It actually acts more as a basket. You want to lean on the side of being simpler. You want to be on the side of being expandable, and something that just really creates this opportunity to connect those dots. So what I did was I wanted to do something that was both clean and colorful, vibrant, and tied into this idea of kind of creating a stylized letter O. So what we did was we just created this kind of stylized radiant, bringing in the 4 colors and just simply introducing the idea of historic Odessa. Perfectly well-rounded, it's a simple statement. It's something that is a little bit aspirational. I think you want to continue to work to be that as a community, but that doesn't have to be your tagline. That it's just an idea of how you start to see a nice correlation between a graphic approach and a message. So this is something to think about. Now from there, having a system that can kind of expand. One of the nice things when you incorporate a simple icon that's representative of the letter O, you can incorporate that into words like simply do dinner, do Q, do vintage, do dessert. All those create a very simple way that you can take the brand system and expand on it. Now with this, that is focused on this destination brand of historic Odessa, but you also want to make sure that you can apply those systems to your organizations, and we looked at 4 in particular: the city, the chamber, Main Street, and the Downtown Merchants Group. So with our Main Street organization, which has been Revitalize Odessa and also has recently had a logo that said Downtown Odessa but was representative of the organization, it could simply be simplified like this, with the simple idea of using those 4 colors to talk about this 4-point approach of Main Street revitalization. So something to think about there. The Downtown Merchants Group has had this black and white logo with images of your downtown buildings. This could show a very simple adaptation where you just adopt the typefaces but keep that logo the same. The city logo for years has featured an oak leaf. It was derived from from what we understand, a student drawing that went on to kind of inspire the logo. So if that was a thing that you wanted to keep, then you could simply create this stylized circular version of those leaves, kind of creating this stylized O out of the oak leaves. So again, we're trying to make this recommendation where you start to see the power of simplicity. The reason why possibly leaning towards a round shape to connect the dots between these different elements, and tying into your identity as a community whose name starts with O, and it's kind of a simple way of doing that. But again, as you kind of look into that, with a city, you also have these city seals. So here we're just showing a very simple recommendation where this might be the place where you can incorporate both an oak tree as well as your railroad history, and start to create a little bit more timeless type city seal that could last year over year. But then also showing how you might want to consider department expansion, Parks and Rec expansion, and being able to kind of take this idea with that same round stylized O, and then you can apply it to things like go outside, go play, different messages that would relate directly to your Parks and Rec mission. Then showing how that might make its way onto things like your city vehicles, Chamber of Commerce, how they might be able to, again, lean on that very simple graphic and have this kind of stylized version of an O, something they had been using before, a stylized O with stars. So again, it just shows simple ways that you don't force everybody to completely change their look and feel, but they can show how they're connected to one another. And then I think one of the biggest things that we really wanted to reinforce was how you have these different organizations in your community, and all of them are performing some of the functions of this 4-legged approach to revitalization. So, the city might be doing things that are design related, like streetscape or facade grant. They might be doing things that are economic vitality, like putting together incentives package. But their goal is to serve the citizen. The Main Street organization might be doing things like image building for the district and beautification through design and outreach through their organization committee and creating business inventories through economic vitality. But their goal is really to shape the place. The business downtown merchants group is focused on things like retail promotions, retail recruitment, but their goal is to go through and build the market. And then the Chamber of Commerce focused on business networking and doing things like special events. And they have this focus on benefiting the membership base. So trying to show a little bit about how all these different organizations work together and how they all share roles in this 4-point process, that it's not just about the revitalization group, it's about finding the appropriate roles for each of the pre-existing organizations. Now, this next recommendation is just, again, showing it's not really recommending changing the bulldog, but I think that in the past you've shown that you're willing to use any bulldog you can get your hands on. So being able to kind of go through and just be able to roll that typeface of Odessa into your brand package for the school is something you can always think about. But then also thinking about this difference between the athletic brand and a logo for the school district as a whole is something to kind of think about. Taking that brand and rolling it out into your events, things like Puddle Jumper Days, which I know, as with most events have ups and downs, but this is a way that you can, again, play off of that round icon, and instead of having a picture of a train like you might often be kind of that first instinct to do, this is just a locomotive wheel. From banners, you could go through and once you start to create all these different circular elements, you have this opportunity to kind of feature this reoccurring look and feel in your banner systems and a connectedness through those designs. Through facade grant programs, you might be able to brand that with names like Odessa Fresh Face and kind of playing off some of the brick of the buildings in your district. Eating the Street, this is actually an event that you all do that comes from my hometown of Milford, Delaware, and a great event that brings a lot of attention to downtown. So again, using that simple round element as the connective tissue to be able to create brand equity by helping people to understand that all these things are the things that are going into making Odessa great. Now, in addition to that, we've also created several different implementation tools that might be helpful for you all. The first is a comprehensive implementation checklist. So it puts in one place all the things that you might think about as you're rolling out a brand, helps you to prioritize those into 3 different phases and kind of get that out into the community. The second is how to be a brand partner. This is for other organizations, event organizers, and businesses in your community, that gives them ideas of how they might use the brand system to help tell their story. And then the final piece is what we call Brand Score. Brand Score gives the organization an opportunity to self-score their own implementation and be able to identify low-hanging fruit and kind of make an action plan for themselves of the things that they should focus on next. So from this, we have been given several refinements, and we're going to kind of work through the process of getting some tools back in the community's hands. We will be creating a style guide document. The style guide document will clearly identify what the typefaces are, what the colors are, how to use the system, how not to use the system. We'll save all the different logos in 5 different file formats and share them all with you. And we really hope that this just serves as a foundation to start to springboard some of the communication, start to realize the power of having a system that allows you to not have to reinvent the wheel every single time you go back and need a new graphic tool, and hopefully will help to have Odessa stick out from the crowd and tell a little bit more of a story. Again, these recommendations are just that. They're recommendations of an overarching strategy. The graphics can be changed, the message can be changed, but the things that you as a community truly need is that efficiency, that ability to efficiently communicate and tell a connected story. So again, from Ben Muldrow at Arnett Muldrow & Associates, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you see some ideas that might spur your creativity and help Odessa move forward.